Comedians. I love them, you love them, and oftentimes when we find ourselves in some sort of distressed mind state, we'll put on something funny for us to laugh at. That's because it'll kind of take us away from our problems and bring us somewhere where we're happy. That's why it might be hard for us to imagine that many of these comedians like Sarah Silverman, Larry David, Robin Williams, all of them suffer from some sort of depression or anxiety. And it's not just limited to them. A lot of comedians have this same sort of depressed and anxious mind state, and it's something that has really been plaguing the comic community for going back thousands of years to jesters in England to, modern and contemporary America. This has been a real issue. And in 1975, there was actually a study conducted to try and figure out why is it that the people that make us laugh can actually sometimes be the most distressed and anxious people. That's right, in 1975, Samuel S. Janis took 55 professional comedians and had them psychoanalyzed to discover if there was some sort of link between anxiety and depression and their comic acts, and whether or not their comic acts would still be successful if they didn't suffer from some sort of anxiety or depression. And here were the results that he found. Many of the comedians interviewed described that their mother was someone they had a critical relationship with when they were younger. Their mothers were accepting figures who spent time with them, encouraged them, understood their needs, and even supported their dreams to be in show business and comedians. On the other hand, many of these comedians were not so enthusiastic about their relationship with their father. Many of the fathers were seen as inadequate providers, absent, uninterested, and disapproving. In fact, most comedians said that before they made it big, their fathers were very, very hesitant and disapproving of them going into comedy in general, whereas their mothers actually supported their goals and wanted to see them go on to do whatever they wanted. In terms of an educational background, 85% of the comedians completed high school successfully, and another 15% had gone on to complete college. Many had been in college several times for varying periods of time. However, most of them left in disappointment. The main reason many left in disappointment was they had a lack of communication with teachers, students, and generally anybody they met in college. Interestingly enough, about 80% of the comedians reported being in some sort of psychotherapy. However, they repeatedly expressed that they feared if their analysis was successful, that it could be damaging to their comedy routines, and that if there wasn't anything wrong with them, what would be funny about them? In fact, only 12% remained in psychotherapy for more than a year. The rest decided that it would just be better if they dealt with their problems on their own. In conclusion, it was determined that the root of almost all of these comics' depression or anxiety was from feeling isolated and different than others. Generally, it seems that most of these comics were able to convert their anger and rage from physical violence to verbal assault, which many of their routines are evidently based on.
What a pig! What a human piece of swine, huh?
Another humor study conducted in 2014 by CU Boulder had similar results. This study was concerned with humor in a more general sense, rather than just comics like the last study was. One of the men who conducted the survey summarized it best when he said, "If you were hit by a car yesterday, it probably wouldn't be that funny, but in 5 years or so, it could make for a funny story." So are comedians truly more anxious people? Well, yes and no. While it's true that some comedians may suffer from increased amounts of anxiety and turmoil, what makes comedians different is the way they choose to extrovert this feeling. Whereas you or I might just watch something funny or listen to somebody say something funny to feel better, a comedian will actively try and make other people laugh and find validation in their joy and smiles.